Here are some of the dumbest and unluckiest ways people have died throughout history. Charles II. Charles II, better known as Charles the Bad, was the King of Navarre, located between present-day Spain and France. Born in 1332, he rose to prominence during the 100 Years' War as he repeatedly switched sides to further his own ends. His father was the first cousin to King Philippe VI of France, while his mother, the Queen of Navarre, was the only child of King Louis X. This made him extra French, and for a man of his ambitions, eager to claim lands he believed were rightfully his. Over the course of his life, Charles would conspire with and against both the French and English sides. Unfortunately, none of this would really go anywhere. Dozens of his plots, alliances, and schemes all failed. Toward the end of his political career, Charles launched one last scheme. In 1377, he offered to let the English use the ports he owned along Normandy as a springboard to invade France. Charles remained in Navarre due to a looming invasion by Castile, so he sent his son, Charles III, and his chamberlain, Jacques de Rue, to prepare his Normandy territories instead. However, on their way there, they were arrested by French authorities. Their treachery was discovered. Charles's son defected to the Duke of Burgundy, but everyone else was executed. Castile then invaded Navarre, and what little support the English gave Charles amounted to nothing. Charles was forced to accept harsh concessions, and although he was still King of Navarre, his treasury and territories were effectively drained. In the year 1387, Charles's health was in decline. His body constantly ached, and he could barely move his limbs. His physicians tried to alleviate this and ordered that he be wrapped in a linen cloth soaked in alcohol, and a small fire be lit underneath. This was a common remedy at the time to treat a body ache and fatigue, so there was little to worry about. However, there was, in fact, a lot to worry about.
How much longer is this going to take?
Patience, Mr. Charles, patience. I'm almost done. I better just cut this with scissors like I usually do.
Lady, my liege, nurse of steel, let this castle feel the fire of your soul.
His son, Charles III, succeeded him as King of Navarre and sought to do what his father couldn't, to actually be a decent king. Qin Shi Huang. Qin Shi Huang was once the king of Qin, succeeding his father when he was just 13 years old. Fast forward several wars and assassination attempts later, he became the first emperor of China by conquering all his other rivals. At his peak, he controlled as far south as modern-day Vietnam. Among Qin Shi Huang's notable accomplishments were beginning the Great Wall of China, expanding the empire's road network, consolidating the economy, and building the terracotta warriors. He infamously had many scrolls and books he deemed irrelevant burned. Sometime during his reign, Qin Shi Huang became obsessed with and paranoid of death. He particularly wanted to secure the elixir of immortality, which he believed would grant him eternal life. One of the most well-known cases of this was when he sent the alchemist Zhu Fu to find it. Zhu Fu and his expedition never returned, presumably because they knew they would be killed if they came back empty-handed. In 211 BC, a large meteor fell, which many considered an ominous sign. To make matters worse, someone had carved a message onto it reading, "The first emperor will die and his land will be divided." Qin Shi Huang became furious when no one would admit who had done it.
All right. What the deal is this? Guys, I promise I won't be mad. Just tell me who did it. Smart. You guys knew I'd never forgive you. Execute everyone in a 5-mile radius. That's cute.
A year later, Qin Shi Huang fell extremely ill, and he died not long after. Ironically, it was his pursuit of immortality that most likely ended up being the cause of his demise. Over the previous several years, Qin Shi Huang's alchemists and doctors had been administering elixirs to him, all laced with deadly and poisonous mercury. At the time, mercury was thought to prolong life, when in fact it does the exact opposite of that. Qin Shi Huang is buried alongside his terracotta army, which he believed would accompany him into the afterlife. Frank Hayes. Frank Hayes was an Irish horse trainer, stableman, and later jockey. He was just 22 years old when he was working at Belmont Park Racetrack in Elmont, New York to make ends meet. On June 4th, 1923, despite not having any formal training or possessing any renown as a rider, Frank was set to race on a horse named Sweet Kiss, who had terrible 20-to-1 odds. Furthermore, in order to race in the first place, Frank had to slim down from 140 pounds to 130 pounds in just under a day. Frank reportedly ran for hours to sweat out any excess weight and denied himself water even before getting into the saddle. By the time he mounted Sweet Kiss, he was likely exhausted and on the verge of collapse.
Bring it on. By golly, I'm doing it! I'm doing it! I'm so happy I could die!
And the winner is... He what?
Amazingly, Frank still managed to win by a head despite being, well, dead. Track doctor John A. Voorhees declared Frank deceased and identified a heart attack as the cause. Frank's death made it to the papers the next day, with the Brooklyn Daily Eagle writing that the Grim Reaper paid a sensational visit to the Belmont Raised Park. The Daily News also shed light on Frank's personal life, revealing that he was well liked among his co-workers and showed great promise as a horse racer. Frank was buried while still wearing his rider's clothes, an eternal honor for the afterlife. After that day, Sweet Kiss never raced again, and according to legend, was renamed the Sweet Kiss of Death, Aeschylus. Aeschylus was a Greek playwright who specialized in tragedies. His works were so renowned that he is considered the father of tragedy. As a young boy, he worked at a vineyard where it was said that the god Dionysus himself appeared to Aeschylus in a dream and convinced him to pursue the art of tragedy.
Oh, sweet son of Zeus, what the Hades is going on? Aeschylus, no time to explain. You have to start writing tragedies.
What about sins?
I got another guy for that. Promise me you'll write the greatest tragedies the world has ever seen.
Okay. I promise.
Good man.
Never doing that again.
He wrote his first play in 449 BC, which earned him critical acclaim. His plays, like others written during his time, were performed during the Dionysia, a large festival held to celebrate Dionysus. Aeschylus was immensely successful, and many of his plays would regularly win first prize. Interestingly, Aeschylus also fought in the Persian Wars, appearing in the Battle of Marathon, Salamis, and Plataea. Toward the end of his life, Aeschylus visited the city of Gela in Sicily. According to Pliny the Elder, a Roman author and historian, Aeschylus frequently stayed indoors due to a prophecy that he would be killed by a falling object. While he was walking outside, an eagle carrying a tortoise was flying overhead and spotted Aeschylus's shiny bald head. The eagle, mistaking Aeschylus's head for a rock, promptly dropped the tortoise to crack it open. But the only thing that cracked open was Aeschylus's head, and he died. Aeschylus's reputation among the Athenians was so great that upon his death, only his works were permitted to be played in future festivals. Only 7 of Aeschylus's works have survived into the present day. The Persians, 7 Against Thebes, The Suppliants, the trilogy known as the Oresteia, which includes Agamemnon, the Libation Bearers, and the Eumenides, and Prometheus Bound, the London Beer Flood. In 1809, Sir Henry Meux of the Meux & Co. Brewing Company purchased the large Horseshoe Brewery located on the corner of Tottenham Court Road and Oxford Street. Henry's father, Richard, had previously built the largest wooden vat in London at Griffin Brewery. This colossal container could hold up to 20,000 imperial barrels. Wanting to copy this, Henry had his own 22-foot-tall vat built. This vat could hold up to 18,000 imperial barrels, and Henry's brewery mostly produced porter, the most popular ale at the time. Incidentally, the rear of the brewery was also located next to New Street. This was part of St. Giles' Rookery, a slum area that was filled with, according to preacher Thomas Beams, the scum of society. Surely their proximity to the brewery wouldn't result in any mishaps. Everything changed on the afternoon of October 17, 1814. George Crick, a storehouse clerk, was on his routine inspection.
Huh. Well, that happened before, so nothing wrong here. I'll just leave a note to have it fixed. No biggie. Yes, we will have to fix it. Make sure you bring an umbrella, dear. Mom, it's so sunny out. It wouldn't kill you, you know. I swear, that girl never listens.
Roughly 300,000 imperial gallons of porter beer swept through New Street, flooding homes and dragging away those unfortunate enough to be caught in its wake. Speaking of wakes, one was being held for a recently deceased Irish boy when beer blasted through the house. By the time the deluge ended, 8 people had lost their lives, 3 of which were children as young as 3. George Crick testified that the bans of the vats failed at least 3 to 4 times a year without incident. After a thorough investigation by authorities, they judged this incident as an act of God, and the Meux & Co. brewery was not required to pay anything. Meux & Company suffered intense setbacks nonetheless, but they recovered thanks to some government financing. Horseshoe Brewery would close in 1921, while Meux & Company went bankrupt in 1961. Basil I. Born sometime in late 811, Basil I, a humble peasant, rose to power as the emperor of the Byzantine Empire. An Armenian by birth, he moved to the great city of Constantinople to find his fortune. Here, he eventually found employment as a talented wrestler and horseman. Eventually, his talent was discovered, and Michael III functionally made him his own personal bodyguard. But a series of calculated murders and alliances would raise his political power even higher. Basil's ambitions would eventually lead him to conspire with others to murder Michael III. Due to Michael's reputation as a drunkard and a general mess, few opposed Basil's rise to the title of emperor. Despite his lack of education and formal training, Basil proved to be an effective and pious leader, earning him a favorable reputation with his subjects throughout most of his reign. Basil had 2 sons, Constantine, his elder from his first marriage, and Leo from his marriage with Eudokia, who was once one of Michael III's mistresses. Basil disliked Leo because he was a bit of a bookworm, but Constantine died, leaving a nerd as Basil's sole heir. Basil disapproved of Leo's chosen mistress, Zoe Zaustina, and was generally distrustful of him. He imprisoned Leo for 3 years and threatened to blind him, but public outcry and pressure from his advisors led Basil to release him. One afternoon, Basil went out on a little hunting trip.
What a wonderful day. What a wonderful day indeed. Not now, I'm busy. I swear to God, Jason, if it's you again.
You okay, boss?
Yeah, you know, it's quite comfortable. The temperature's just right for hunting. Of course not, you egg. Help me up.
Basil was dragged 16 miles across a dirty forest floor. Because of this, he contracted a debilitating disease and he died not long after. However, before he died, he had the attendant who saved him executed, as he believed that he was trying to assassinate him. Basil's son Leo would succeed Basil as king and become Leo VI, and his first act was to rebury his father, Michael, in a grand mausoleum. This would indirectly confirm that Leo very much considered himself Michael's son and not Basil's.